the curriculum you were working on all week, because this handout that I gave you, I've been working on for a couple of years, just because I've been going to the classroom and doing different things, and started pulling it together. And it's very similar to what your curriculum was, looking at the watershed, looking at it from a lot of different perspectives. And this is not an exhaustive resource guide, but it's a lot of people I work with, like Fish and Wildlife, the Kentucky Arts Council. What you might not realize in a science classroom, how important it is to tell the story of what you're observing. Sometimes language skills are just as important for an English major as it is for a scientist, because you have to communicate. And anytime you are in the field, I have this great story to tell you. I have a friend who was 90 years old. He died just last year. But his wife was my first art teacher a long time ago in Moorhead, Kentucky. And he taught at the university with my father. But after I met his wife, we kind of kept in touch over the years, and I would see them 2 or 3 times a year. They came to every event I had. They were always so supportive. But we just made a point of visiting with each other all the time because they were such great people. But he told me this story about how important it was for his students to keep a journal. He taught chemistry and biology at Moorhead during the 50s, 60s, and then ended up in the 70s. He said he used to use textbooks with no photographs. Or if there were photographs, they were black and white. So his students really did have to observe, and they had to draw what they saw, whether it was something through the microscope or something they were observing. And he said it wasn't about being an artist. There was something about your brain when you actually have to look at a map and sketch it out yourself, or look at what the cells are doing, or describe what you're seeing happen. When you actually physically have to write it down, it's different than looking at a photograph and saying, oh yeah, here's 2 cells divided. And so he said when they got the colored textbooks and everything, he was like, wow, now they don't have to do this. But then he went back because he realized that the students needed that intimate look at what they were doing. So it wasn't a matter of, oh, we're going to do art today, foo-foo. I hate that art gets put into this category of just the dumb people do it. As a matter of fact, in my high school class, I had almost straight A's. I was not good in math, but I could memorize them and forget it. So, but my art teacher, bless her heart, was being so nice. And I was in my class, we had about 4,000 kids in the high school. And I was the only art major that was in one of the scholar, magna, whatever. Anyway, she said, oh Pat, I'm so glad one of our students was in that, because you just showed everybody's not dumb. And that really kind of hurt my feelings, because I didn't feel dumb. And I wasn't doing art because I thought it was easy. I just loved it. And I kind of see art as a way of discovering the world. I see art as a way of communicating. And it took me about, I don't know, it took me a while to figure out that I had to communicate other than just with my paintings. People needed titles on paintings. They wanted the story about the paintings. I'm like, I paint realistically. Why should I put a title on that? Why can't you come up with a title to what it means to you? That's what I was all about. It's like, no, people really want to know that title. They want to know that story, so they can then enter into it and react to it and agree with you or not. They like to have that entryway. And so, as you're taking kids out in the field, just having them take a couple of notes, I know what their notebooks can look like. They can be pretty empty. And I know that you might have to give them some directions of what you want. Come up with 10 words that describe what you saw. or come up with the texture, come up with the size and scale, just some kind of descriptive things. Or one of the things I want you to be thinking about, you had a whole week looking at your watershed. And I hope you've come up with some interesting vocabulary, because I would like for you to create a haiku at the end of this, and we're going to make a poster with it. So, let's just flip through this, and I'll make a couple comments. I'm hoping this is something you can use as a, just maybe, like I said, it's not the most in-depth scientific lesson plan that you'll ever see, but I hope it gives you some ideas on how you might take what you're trying to do and then also translate it into not only that worksheet that shows the kids were paying attention or were at class, but helping them interpret what they've seen and what their experience is in a couple of different ways. And I know you can't do that with everything. I know how much time you have. And I know every time people have me come into their classroom and I have an hour, and we've got to get everything out. We've got to get everybody ready. Yeah, it's a real challenge. I understand that part. I really do. Okay, this is about organizing your project. And I know it's tiny, but this kind of outlines what the chapters are following, just a kind of an overview. This is a little bit about who we are and what we're trying to do. And this is just, again, it just gets you into it of what my headspace is when we're looking at this. We have the watershed here, and I know you've seen some interesting maps. And a lot of this stuff can be very abstract. I mean, people in Lexington don't know where the water comes from. Average person doesn't think of a watershed. So if you can give them some kids the tools to help think about, everything that's in that parking lot is going to be in your water. Just is. We've lost a sense of stewardship in this country. Something gets trashed, we move on. It's that individualism, westward movement thing, whatever. But we are not stewards. We want to fix it with technology if it's too big of a mess. But as a citizen activist, I know that the level, the bar to prove that you're being hurt by some environmental thing is so huge. You have to have studies to prove it. An individual can say, I got sick because of this, but you know how much credibility you're going to have? None. You're going to have sympathy, but you're not going to be able to prove that caused that, because you have to have real studies, and that's where it's important. So when we've had the Clean Water Act, and when we've had these things passed, that was from a preponderance of evidence that, our rivers are catching on fire, people are getting sick. It's going to cost us more money for health care if our people aren't healthy. It took all of that, and even with all of that, now we're very much in, not denial, but complacency, because now we have all the laws on the books, so we're okay. If it was really that bad, it would be stopped. Let me tell you, we're in the middle of 4 lawsuits right now with the Kentucky River Keepers and other partners. We found 3 companies that had 42,000 violations of the Clean Water Act in 2 years. And so we go to the court, we're ready, we're so excited, because these guys were the bad guys. These were coal companies that were bad actors. They were lying about their water test. We didn't do water samples. They got caught by scratching off information and putting something on top of it. I mean, crazy stuff. So we go to the courtroom. Here's the judge. Here's the coal companies. Here's our young attorneys who are doing this practically free. And where's the state attorneys? The people on our side? They're sitting with the coal company attorneys. It's 5 years now. We've won every stage of the way. And now, this one coal company, you know, they're all hurting right now because of natural gas, not because of the environmental movement, let me tell you. But these bad actors, everybody thought, oh, they're mom and pop shops. They can't afford all of this environmental stuff. Do you know in 3 counties in eastern Kentucky, there's 90 mines with this one company? Their headquarters is in India. But each one of those little LLCs can go out of business as soon as they aren't profitable, and then they don't have to pay pensions or anything. But they're a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm just saying, we have a lot to do as citizens to be informed. Okay. Obviously, this is one of my most favorite things. When you think about habitat, I just downloaded a few things from the internet for some of these posters because you can print them out. You can just type in habitat or watershed, and you can really come up with some really great illustrations for what you're trying to do. But then, of course, you want to interpret that, and that's what this is. This is an interpretation of everything kind of in this watershed. And again, you can look at the watershed from all of those different perspectives, and your students can be engaged on different levels. I think almost any grade can do this. It's just you modify it for kind of where your students are. But with a habitat, you're in this habitat, and if you can get them to realize that if that snail darter dies, it means you might not be able to thrive in that environment. Healthy environments make healthy people. I mean, that's kind of a good problem we have with some of our farm cultures. The animals are so packed together. Their water is, you guys have seen the farm slime ponds that a lot of cows use. We've got neighbors that have them. The cows can practically walk across the water. So just what in our brains tell us that that's okay. That our habitat, it's over here. We have our nice clean house or apartment. That's over there. So I think we have to be reconnected to what's going on in our environment and realize that, well, as a citizen, I can't be an expert on everything. I have to rely on experts a lot. But I also have a responsibility as an informed citizen to be informed and to advocate for at least clean water for me and my family and my future grandchildren. Somehow we've lost that stewardship. What I was going to say, we had a trip. I was a guest artist in France. It was a great opportunity. I got to go to several different cities, got to teach in the schools, got to talk to a lot of people. But what struck me, they all talk about dirt with the wine, dirt with the food, dirt with everything. It's all about the dirt. You'd go someplace and they'd smell this dirt. And you know what? It was all different. It all kind of had a freshness. But that soil had been used for gardens and vineyards and everything for hundreds or thousands of years, and they still valued that dirt. We plow up everything, put a parking lot on it, or we plow it up and just stuff with chemicals and say, okay, we add this chemical here, this fertilizer there, this insecticide there, and it won't hurt us. Well, I was at a river basin meeting a couple years ago, and a couple of the scientists that do water testing for the city of Louisville, they were there doing a presentation because Louisville is kind of at the catch basin of a lot of things, and it's a big city. And they're starting to realize they don't have some answers. Like, this chemical can be okay, so many parts per billion. This water tests fine, so many parts per billion. But they're getting so many different chemicals, hundreds or more of chemicals that they aren't even testing for in the water. Lexington is the same way. You know, they test for vehicle, they test for this, heavy metals, but everything that goes in our body and the animals on the land goes into is part of this habitat. And they're starting to worry that, okay, this chemical's okay so many parts per billion, this chemical's okay so many parts per billion, these hormones are okay for so many parts per billion, but no one's testing what happens with them all together. What does that mean? And I think we've got to be, you know, that research probably isn't being funded very well, because who's going to make money from that? Our system is based on who's going to profit from that. Our health is not the top of that list. And I think we've got to be aware of, and ask the right questions. Because if we tell our politicians that we want clean water, they will fund these things. But that's where it takes being a little bit informed, not a fanatic, not being stupid, but taking some real facts and asking questions and saying, how do we ask the right questions? And how do we think about the bigger picture? And I think that's kind of where art comes in, because you're looking at a big thing here, and you've got a lot of components that can fit together. Okay, we've talked about some of the environmental impacts. This can be localized, this can be nationalized, this can be brought together on a world scale. We are not that isolated. What happens in China is now affecting us by air, by materials. Think about the sheetrock that got brought over here after Katrina. Took a lot of people being sick before they realized that it was the sheetrock. The food that is imported sometimes. You know, China had the plastic that was being put in the infant milk to make it go further. And we were getting some of those products. They were starting to be so cheap. I mean, everybody wanted them. Then they realized what was actually in them. So the environmental impacts can be what's happening in this neighborhood. Well, we need to think about parking lot runoff. That doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you think about all the stuff that can be dumped on the parking lot, then you can start getting kind of interested, you know? Like somebody might have decided to change their coolant in their radiator, and that was convenient because they could do that and go in the sewer and then it'd all be gone and nobody would have to worry about it. You know, it seems practical. I don't know why. I just was lucky, I guess. He started the Kentucky Riverkeeper, a nonprofit organization, about the year 2000. Well, about 5 years ago, I became the Riverkeeper. And that's just we're part of an international group that Bobby Kennedy started with Waterkeeper Alliance. And the idea is that we all care about water in general. All of you guys, I know, care about water. If I said who does not care about water, nobody would raise their hands. Because I know that's a good idea. You want to care about water, you want it clean. And then you go out the door, you go home, you turn on your tap, and you don't worry about it because the laws are in place if it was that bad. Well, I started going to river authority meetings. It's the only body in Kentucky that governs the 14 locking dams and kind of the body for the river, governing body. And they would always meet in these little tiny rooms. They never had a set meeting day, and I kind of wanted to know what was going on. And sometimes I'd show up and I'd sit out in the hallways right here. For about a year, we kept wanting them to do different things, asking about this and that. I read their mission statement to them 3 times. I said, can I say something? I just wanted to read your mission statement that it's more about quantity of water. It's also about quality and access. And well, I don't know what happened. The governor appointed me to that board. I didn't even know you could do that. And then we got a new director, we got new board members. Now we are working on this Kentucky River Water Trail that we're going to talk about in a minute. But the river has 14 lock and dams. And I was asked the other day, well, what's the difference between the lock and the dam? This is a 40-year-old man who grew up in Richmond. And I said, well, the lock opens, the dam is solid. We have 14 of them. We have properties, 14 properties the River Authority does, and some other properties. Up until the recent past, there was no public access on those, except for at Boonesboro, where it's part of the park. But even then, the River Authority did not want any fishermen around the dams. And we all know fishermen love to be below the dam where all of the waters. Yeah, know all of that. Fish and Wildlife have been working with that board for years. No. Army Corps wouldn't let anybody there. We're not letting anybody there. Well, this new board, this new director, we are now working with every county that have lock and dams. Some counties have a couple of lock and dams. We're working with every one of the county judges to create a partnership, and counties agree to take care of that area and they can turn it into a park. Also, they agreed to build a portage around the lock and dams for the kayakers, canoers, and the fishermen. And we're working with Fish and Wildlife. They've created a new grant that will pay the counties to build them. And so within a matter of just a couple of years, we've had to come up with contracts. This is all lengthy stuff. You know how long it takes for people, for things to, it took us about 3 years to figure out that we needed contracts with the counties, that we needed, what's the next step, how do we move it forward? And so anyway, these lock and dams are going to become an incredible resource, because that means you're going to have parking. Many of them will have primitive camping, picnic areas. In a 250-mile stretch from Beattyville to Carrollton, and the river flows north, which is also a little bit unusual. You're going to have 14 more parks. That is huge. The locks and dams were put in at the turn of the 19th century. I think the earliest one was 1890 or something. They decided to start building these dams because they needed to be able to get barges in and out, control the water depth for coal and timber. And so by the time they got the first 4 or 5 locks built and the railroads came in, they really didn't need the lock and dam system like they thought they were going to need it. So they finally built all 14. By the way, the one at 10, Boonesboro, well, all of them are still, they're built on log timbers. So the logs have been there for over 100 years. Just thought that would be interesting. I mean, there's a lot to know about this body of water and the history of that. This hopefully will give you some ideas. The River Authority also has what they call the, I know I have it written down here, the navigation charts. You can go online, hit navigation charts, and it's about 40 pages. So you're not going to want to print this for all of the students, but you can download that, and it comes in a booklet, and it's by section. And it's a very detailed map of every creek and crevice. So, and it takes a little while to look at it because there's so much information, and they divide it up. That if you actually put the maps together, it creates this really interesting thing because the maps are oriented to fit the page. So sometimes north is straight up, sometimes it's left or right. And so by the time you piece it all together, you can have a really great visual of the headwaters and the river, all the way up to Carrollton. So again, that's a fun way to get kids engaged in just the river system itself.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I see on a couple of these it says protect river keeper.
Yes.
Literally, are they talking about you, or do you have a website that has some of these things?
Well, we have a website, but we're also working on a Watershed website right now with University of Kentucky. So that's not in place yet, but that will be pretty awesome. But yes, if you need, you can contact me.
Yeah. So you can
And our organization.
You can maybe come to our schools. Is that at a cost?
Oh, awesome, yes. You could probably get an Arts Council grant, and you could get me in there.
A what? Arts Council?
Kentucky Arts Council grant. They also have actors that will come in and be Daniel Boone in your school and talk about the whole history. Of course, the park itself, they have people who you can contact the park and bring them into the school and have them. They are fabulous.
What park? What do you?
Boonesboro State Park.
Oh.
They have the reenactors, and I think some of the other parks do as well, that you can bring into the school. But they'll come and tell the story, and they would be a specific character, because that's what they do on the floor, at the fort. Okay, water trail. You might wonder why an environmental group would be wanting to build a water trail. How in the world are they connected? Well, when I first got started, I was going around to different counties, I was going to different entities, different groups, talking about the river, keeping it clean, blah, 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 and everybody's like, yeah, great idea. Go to the next one, great idea. But I wasn't seeing some action. Wasn't seeing so much, well, what do you do then? You know, you can say, be a good steward of the river, do this, but then people kind of sometimes need, well, what can they do? And then we applied for the National Park Service to come. We thought we were going to do one little pool at a time. We started with 9 because it was the closest one to us. And, pool 9 is between lock 9 and 10. So the pools have a number, the locks have numbers.
And the lock and down at Boonesboro's
10, and the pool in front of the park is 9. And it's very confusing at first. But,
The Tates Creek Road is number 9.
yes, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Fair.
Place Fair, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's not, it's
And then the,
Valley View Fair.
yes, and then the lock and dam line is really close to that.
Right.
Well, we realized when we started with the water trail for 9, we realized it really got people engaged. It gave them something to think about. So then when we started looking at the whole river and working on the water trail, all of a sudden the county judges and the Rotary and different groups could say, we're building something for our community, even though it's the same river that was going through there. But all of a sudden, they could realize that if people could portage around the lock and dams, they might have somebody come and stay at their park overnight and maybe buy a meal at their restaurant. And, oh, well, maybe we better have garbage picked up because we want them to come back. And so it kind of started having this like snowball effect, and all of a sudden the river's becoming a valuable commodity again. People remember being part of the river, they remember being able to fish on the water, they remember being on the beach. And that got taken away about 30 years ago. All of the state parks kind of went away from their natural water, their beaches, their lakes, and they built pools and said, don't go there, it's too dirty. Well, the river has really rebounded. Lexington still has another year or two before they have to come into compliance for their sewer system, because every time it rains, it fails. They can't blame everybody upstream right now, because all of those little communities, they all have new, what?
We keep trying.
Yeah. and unfortunately, everybody's complied and they fit that mold quite a bit, but all of these small communities, Beattyville, Estill County, Urban, Richmond and Winchester all have new sewer systems that have been upgraded to at least accommodate much more of that. So the secret is, if you want to go swimming in the river, when it is that beautiful emerald green and it hasn't rained for a few days, it's almost clear and glowing, that's perfect. If you've had a big rainstorm, you might want to wait a couple days because that fecal is going to be a problem right after that rain because you have the failed sewer systems. But after that, after a few days, it's all good. Okay. Okay, now, I put this in here. It's something, okay, that looks a little complicated, but what I usually do, oh, I don't have it on here. You have the blank ones in the back of your book. If you'll look at that the blank forms, it's at the very back. This one is the elements of art, and there's also one for the elements of design. Now, this looks a little bit complicated. This is the most basic thing that you can do. And what I do with students, and I do this from kindergarten through high school, and you might think, oh, well, why would you do this with high school students? I find some repetition is good because kids absorb things at their level. So kindergartners can do one-point perspective like this railroad track, and they may not be able to reproduce that for everything else, but they will remember it. Then when they start observing a road and it disappears, they start making those connections of what's going on. How many lines can you draw? Hundreds. That's just a few examples of some type of line you might draw. I did most of these things with a marker because usually they have a pencil or a marker. You get it done. You can do the color wheel with 3 colors, crayons. This is simple. You have red, yellow, and blue, and you have yellow in the green and yellow in the orange. You have red in the orange and red in the purple. And if they see that, then they can understand how, it's just a simple color scheme. Also texture. I tried to use things in the Watershed for our textures and for our examples. And the interesting thing about texture is you don't have to outline everything. If you're drawing a fish and it has scales, it doesn't have to have an outline around it because the other textures around it will be different and it creates an implied line. So you can be more effective if you don't outline everything. And I don't mean to be, well, a lot of times, if you're not in art class, creating a poster is just sort of a secondary. We'll go create a poster. Actually, it's a really good thing to do. But giving the kids some actual tools to think about what's a focal point, just how do you direct the eye? Like you do something like this and put a word here, that's going to get someone's attention. Understanding what symmetry, asymmetrical, and radial is. Again, those are descriptive words that you might use when you're talking about describing a bug carcass. This is not just art. So, when you, again, I think it's okay if your students have this and a type of thing like this from kindergarten through high school, because every year when they do it, it would be better. It would make those connections for them and it would all make sense. I've done this with art teachers, and they're so used to doing each unit, because each one of these can be a whole unit. Yes?
5 minutes left.
Awesome.
Before the 20.
Okay, awesome. So each one of these could be its own unit. And so I showed them what I was doing with this, I call it my art journal, It's just, really fast and dirty. You do it in 35, 45 minutes with the kids. It's really fast, you get it done. You do it together. They never see the finished thing until theirs is finished. So I always do it on overhead. Now we're going to do this pattern. Oh, we're going to create this focal point. And we just kind of do it together, do it fast, get it done. But in the meantime, they've heard me using the words. They see the words, and they see an action that they can kind of put with that. And they might not say what the emphasis or the focal point is or how that's all used. But they're going to start putting it together. Because it's not important that they can recite all the elements and principles of design at the end of this section. I don't expect you to now know the elements and principles of design, even though you know all those words. That you start using it as a tool. Okay, so what we're going to do in one of my sections here, I suggest you do a haiku, and I'm fogging my glasses. So I would like for you to think, I'm gonna throw this out here. The haiku is 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5. And what I came up with, let me just throw it out here, because I think sometimes a poem or a haiku, you take all of this experience you've had, and then a poem can just distill it down, and it's kind of like you might remember. And it can be very powerful. Kentucky raindrops, mountain streams the river make, journey to the sea. That kind of helps me to think about what a water cycle is. Or you might want to have a poster that would be a warning poster, danger, or you might want to have a poster about, you can think, I would like you to use a combination of a poem or a few words, and here's your paper, it's watercolor paper. I want you to measure an inch all the way around, and I'm going to give you a hint. Kids that can't do this, even in high school, but what you do is say you're going to do an inch, and mark it, an inch and mark it, and use the ruler to connect that line. If you just do it one time, this ruler can go, so you need 2 points to get that measurement. It's a very simple measurement, and sometimes this takes the whole class over. I'm just saying. So repetition is a good thing. So you want an inch border, and the reason I do that is because with watercolor, if you go all the way out to the edge, it will end up on your table, the paint will slide off of it. It just helps you control that a little bit more. When we get ready to start painting, see, what I want you to think about is, if you have a poem, or some words, or a message, where would you put it? Right in the center? Maybe. If your design is going to be radial. If you want an interesting composition, there's 4 sweet spots, they call them. And if you have the focal point here, 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 or here, that's generally a more interesting composition. A poster is not always the same thing as a painting, though. Sometimes front and center is what you want. And so, when we're going to keep it very simple so you can get this accomplished. But the reason I want you to think about your space of what you're going to put your poem or your word, I want you to think about where it's going to be, what shape that might be, that you might block it out very lightly with pencil. Then I want you to think about some other shapes or background, because that's what we're going to have time for today. You're not going to have time to do all the animals. Just do your squirrel, Jess. You can do one. It's just going to be, but also there's when you're drawing on your paper, don't press hard, because you will want to erase, not with the pencil erasers, they'll be terrible, you have to have a really clean eraser. But many people think you can't erase after you paint, but what's happened is they've created a crease, and it can come into that crease and dries. So it's no longer lead, it is now paint. So draw very lightly, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to come up with something really, I want you to be thinking about that. Then we're going to put your washes on and let that be drying, and then you'll work on your actual verbiage, okay? So it can be dry. But if you can think about and leave the space dry, that's going to be important. If we had tomorrow, you come back and you can put your words anywhere. We're just having you playing around the water. So think about a box or a shape. It can be organic shape. But think about where you might want your words. And I want you to be thinking about what colors you want to throw in here for your background. Okay? You've got about, I've got to pass the paper out before you start doing it. You can start measuring your paper. I have one, yeah, I have one.
Thank you.
I always think that a good painting is actually an informed painting either from careful observation or research.
Kelly Brown.
Because how many times,
I'm okay.
I have to say, I think in a school situation, it can be really hard. You just hand someone a blank piece of paper, and say, be creative, do whatever you want to. Well, they just had math, they just had English, they just had to come up with some kind of idea. So now all of a sudden they have a blank page, and I have to tell you, in high school, 90% of the time, the first thing the kids want to do is their name and decorate it. And so I usually let them get that out of their system. But what I find is just saying do something. A lot of kids haven't had a background. They don't understand how to actually think about what they want to do, how to put it together. So you try to think about giving them tools. So if they know that how to handle the simple part of handling the pencil so that they can then erase the lines, that's a tool. That's some knowledge they might not have gotten if they haven't had a lot of experience. Handling the brush, handling water, handling watercolor. They don't want to have to worry about that a whole lot. They just need to know how to make it happen. But, also being aware of what you put together. If you have a student and they put together a monarch butterfly and a daffodil in Kentucky, they may never see each other. So knowing when the daffodils bloom and knowing when the monarchs go through here, that's a key element to that painting that student might be doing. Unless they're making a statement. So think of, yes.
One thing I found is sometimes kids don't want to give them all the space. So the art teacher was really wonderful and shared a bunch of these pieces of paper with me. And we divided them in half, and then we folded them, and we made and then they gave us some tag board, we put them on for covers, and then they would have this a little square, and they would fill up that little square, and they could take that from the field, and they loved that because then they could open it up and see what we had done for the whole.
See, that's a great way to organize your work. In my cover piece, there's where it says how to do your journal. There's a place called Molly Hawkins. Have you ever, it's a catalog for teachers. You can get field journals, sketchbooks, for less than 99 cents a piece. And so the kids can take them. I suggest you get a type of journal so that each thing, each map, each thing the kids do, and they put it together, all of a sudden they have a finished product. which is much more valuable to them than if they do this worksheet here, this thing here, and they don't see how it fits together.
So that again is Molly what?
Molly Hawkins. And you go online, it'll come up, and you can get construction paper, really high quality, like 500,000 sheets, it's just so cheap that everything is just really priced for teachers. But it's great. I do. And you know, I'm probably going to check myself. That much.
So we're leaving space for the words, we're just doing color right now?
Well, you're not doing color text, I'm going to show you a couple things, and then you can do whatever you want. Did I leave the brushes someplace?
You pass it.
I know, I've got a whole bunch of them. Here they are. I just gave you fairly large brushes because Molly Hawkins has a brush that you can get for, I think, 59, 69 cents, and they make these wonderful tips. You see this? This actually makes a tip. Those hard little craft brushes are not even good for glue, so don't even bother. These come with the Prang or Crayola watercolor. They're the best pigment. This is all you need when you're doing washes. But if you're going to be doing detailed drawing, you do need to have a brush that you can use the tip with. I'm just saying. And I know you're not here to be an art teacher, but I'm just saying you got to have the tools. You got to have a compass.
It's more fun to have the right tools anyway.
It is. It's just more fun.
Yeah, so the kids really feel like they're getting to be real artists.
Well, and you know, I mean, like designing your poster, you could have them use a compass to draw some circles.
I mean, I can just see that my kids would, I just know my kids would be, they'd be more careful with paper like this. They'd be like, ooh, we're going to do something special.
This is real watercolor paper. And like, if they were using a compass, you could have big circles, smaller circles, because repeating that is this thing up here. See the repetitive? Your eye gets drawn. So, and they don't have to know what that is, but just have as examples. So you can have, but I want you to think about the space that you want to put your words in, because you're going to need to keep that dry. And before you start painting, we're going to do something together. I'm going to do a demonstration, and then it'll be your turn.
Should we start sketching our drawing at this point?
Yes. Also, yeah, because while your background is drawing, we'll then work on your poem or observation or whatever message you want to put. You have a whole week of in-depth activities that you've been doing. Think about an activity that you would like to make a poster about that you could use in your classroom. You know, I think a lot of what I like to say is that a good poster or a good piece of art actually has experience behind it. You don't just sit in there in the classroom and do it. So having a field trip, having some hands-on experiences, and then translating it into some form of